10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes, you know it. You are in the right spot. This is a player's perspective coming to you. It is now Wednesday, October 23rd. And we are here, my man, K Solo. What's up, my brother?
What's going on, baby? What's going on?
Woo, the boys are back in town.
Back in town. Back at it again.
And our boys are going to the Super Bowl, kid.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Holy cow. Look at that. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him.
We went to South Florida and found something.
Found something down there, brother. We always find something in South Florida, though, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, what in the world? What's going on? But our boys managed to pull out a victory, brother, 28-21 in overtime over those Miami Hurricanes. I remember years ago they wore a shirt and said, just because we're in your league doesn't mean that you guys are in ours. But for 2 years straight, Georgia Tech has made sure that they understand that we will not be defeated by you.
Yep.
Literally the you.
The you.
So, brother, you get a chance to check it out?
I did get a chance to, actually last week, it was, Saturday was a kind of a weird day. Because I wanted to go watch the game.
Yeah.
I don't have the ACC network.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do for the game? What am I going to do for the game?
Right.
And I thought I could stream it from DirecTV. However, I wasn't able to do that. So I went, I got home and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to listen to the game. I'm going to do the old school and I'm just going to listen to the game.
Okay.
And so I found the, went on to the Ramarec.com site and all that good stuff. Found the game, started listening to it. And as I listened to it, I started being like, oh, God, somebody has been listening to our show. Somebody
I said the same
has
thing,
been listening to our show. It was almost like, it was almost prophetic how everything that we kind of talked about. Everything that we talked about happened.
We talked about getting Demetrius Knight incorporated back into that defense.
Defense, right.
And then we said they needed to come up with more creative ways to get some pressure on the quarterback.
On first and second down and stuff like that and all
then
that good stuff.
We get out there and get a strip sack.
Yeah.
Off the pressure, off the end by number 17.
There you go.
Number one in my heart because of that number. And I mean, kid, I was saying the same thing. Saying the same thing, brother. I mean, I was looking at the same, and I said, wow. I said, I need to find a way for us to cut up our show and then show clips of what we just said happening out there.
Yeah.
But I just think that that's just good football, Ken.
Yeah, it was good football, and it was the first time all season that we've seen a semblance of what's going to be the future, I believe.
Yeah.
Where every phase and every part of the game had an effect.
Yeah.
And the team was clicking on all cylinders. There were moments in the game where they did give up some things, but they bounced back. They showed a lot of resiliency in this game. They showed a lot of heart. They showed a lot of spunk, a lot of stick-to-itiveness and all that good stuff. They showed everything that you want to see out of young men playing football and not getting down when things started to go wrong or when it looked like they could go wrong. They responded and answered back.
This is coming off of the heels of being 1-5,
right,
and on the road,
right,
and you see them out there playing inspired football. So to me, kudos to Coach Collins, and all the coaching staff out there, Coach Knight, Coach Coleman, Coach Key, Coach Burton, Coach. I can't believe who else you looking for? The wide receiver coach.
I don't know the wide receiver coach.
But, no, I know him. I know. Come on, cuz. That's that age, boy. I'm telling you. Woo! But hey, to all of the coaches, they did a heck of a job working with these guys, getting them ready to play, and coming out there being ready to do it. Now, I mean, you're in South Florida, you're in a nice stadium, you're out there. Now the crowd wasn't that great, but it definitely wasn't a crowd for you.
Right.
But it was definitely in something that's inspired football to come out there and say, hey man, we got to go get this W.
Right. And kind of who cares that Miami is not having a great season.
I don't care. I know I don't care. I mean, I hear people talk about it all the time about the Miamis of FSUs. They could stay in the basement as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
But I do understand as a league concept, you would love to see everybody playing well.
Right.
Just to help you along and everything else. And we'll get into some of that too, because I hate to see, the kind of comparisons and things going on because, Clemson supposedly is suffering because of that. You see what I'm saying? And, but to me, it just shows more of the ignorance that's out there so far as people that analyze this sport, that go about understanding what this sport is all about and what's going on. And you got to understand that the game has to be played every week against different people, different matchups, the way people go about them, the way coaches coach. All that stuff has to play out on a Saturday between, two end zones and 100 yards and the sideline. And on that gridiron, 53 and a half and a quarter yard or whatever. You got to play that game.
Right.
And you got to see what's going to happen. Nobody thought that Virginia would put a whooping on Duke like that, but they did.
They did.
Okay. Nobody thought that Virginia would lose to Miami.
Right.
But they did.
Right. And you just never know what's going to happen on any given Saturday or, if you're lucky enough, Sunday. You never know from week to week what's going to happen.
Right.
And especially on a college level, because you're dealing with the age level that you're dealing with.
Right.
You're dealing with 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids who sometimes have other stuff on their mind.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit challenging to get the best out of them.
And in our case, we're only talking about eight guys that are going to be 21, 22.
Right. So
everybody else is sub 20s right now.
And that's amazing to me that the senior class is so small.
Yeah.
And these guys, you could tell that they're really fighting. They're fighting for their senior season.
Yes.
To make it memorable.
Absolutely.
You don't want to. We did. During our senior season, had a chance to go to Hawaii, which was the memory of a lifetime.
Well, exactly. And selecting where we wanted to go because there was an option for us to what to do. We thought going to Hawaii would be the best thing.
Yeah.
To send our seniors out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it wasn't a year that we thought it would be.
Right.
But because it was in Hawaii, beautiful trip. Sometimes somewhere that you probably never go to again.
Right.
But you said, hey, let's take that trip.
Yeah,
and go out there and do that, and that'll be fun.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Coach Ross kind of let us choose? Did he kind of let us choose?
That's what I'm saying. He let us choose it.
Yeah,
he let us choose it. We had a couple of options out there, and he was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And we were like, "Oh shoot, take Hawaii, man." It's like, "Are you skidding?" I said, "We're going to Hawaii, baby." So I mean, that's good stuff out there. I want to give a shout out to the West Coast kid. We got Scott McLee out there. What's up, cuz? Out there on the West Coast checking in for us. And then my man Keith Mentor, he's a Georgia Tech grad.
Yeah.
And great Georgia Tech fan down there. And he's representing the South, kid. He's down there in Noonan. He down there, he representing the South.
The South.
So the South is checking in, baby. And everything. I think I saw my man Dexter print up. Let's see. We got Elliot Waller. Kim Johnson, Kim Jackson. That's my man right over here behind the boards. And then we got Dale. Oh, my man Dale is checking in on us, man. Yeah. Joy Walker's checking in on us. Robert Turner, Kim Johnson. So just a few of the people that are checking in on us right now. We appreciate you joining us here on A Player's Perspective. You know where to come for Georgia Tech sports, the real talk and the real deal. Kid, to me, it was a win that was like a shot in the arm. Brother, it was like a shot in the arm, and it felt like something that we absolutely needed for more reasons than the obvious, but that we absolutely needed at that time, so far as the way Coach has even talked about it, Coach Collins has even talked about it. The guys have been working hard. They've been getting out there. They've had some adversity. They've had a lot of things just not go their way, and then they've had some very tough competition out there.
Right.
But something like this, man, it can really be a positive pill that they can take to really, make some changes and maybe even turn around this season, maybe a little bit better than what people thought they would.
Yeah, and stuff like this when it happens, wins are contagious. They can come in bunches and they can kind of come along at the right time and the right moment.
Yes.
And I tell you one thing that it does, it lends to validating the coaching.
Yes.
Validating what you're teaching, validating what's happening from on a week to week basis, because we've seen progress every week.
Right.
From first half to second half, from one game to the next, you've seen steps of progress. But this kind of puts a culmination to and makes it a high point in the season.
Yeah.
Makes it a great time. It makes the guys feel great because now I really believe in what's been taught to me.
Yeah.
Because we found a way to win. We found a way to come through some adverse situations, found a way to overcome a lot of different things that happened during the ball game, found a way to get the score in every phase of the ball game.
Exactly.
From your special teams to your defense and your offense. Everything was clicking. From the running game was clicking, the passing game was clicking, and it looked like you're making the right strides.
Yeah,
and we talk about it all the time. Offensive line wise, I think they played one of the best games I've seen them play all season. Defensive line wise, I think they played one of the better games, and shout out to Coach Stacker because they found ways to get pressure and to be disruptive.
Yes.
On those key downs and key moments in the ball game. And, we laugh every week and we talk about it. We talk about the one down that I talk about all the time is third down.
Absolutely.
That's to me, that's the key down. That's the down where we either gonna get off the field.
I thought about you, brother. I did. I thought about you, and I was wondering if you were thinking the same thing because we stopped them on first and second down, and then it was like third down and 11.
Yeah, and they get 16.
And I was like, oh Jesus, no. And my wife was like, "What's wrong? That's good, right? Third." I said, "Yeah, but that's kind of where we don't shine, man. We just don't shine on that." But sticking like what you're talking about, let's start on the defensive side. Go by position. I mean, and let's go by actual group. And let's talk about some of that has progressed, has gotten a little better and everything else, because I even want to start, let's start from the back and work our way in. But I thought Trey Swilling, man, had an awesome game, Ken.
Yeah, he had a great game.
He was very aggressive, and I mean, in there, brother, breaking up passes and everything else.
Yeah, and that was key for him on Saturday. He was very, like I said, very aggressive at the point of attack, at the line of scrimmage, being able to be disruptive and get guys off their track or whatever. And then once they got into the route, he was able to get in the trail technique, get on top of them at times and make plays.
Yeah.
He was a little too aggressive at some points because they did draw a couple of penalties.
Which, in a way, sometimes you're not too mad at, King.
No, you're not mad at because you're fighting.
Right.
You're fighting at that point.
Exactly.
And it wasn't like they were egregious calls, but they were. Yeah, I could understand why the call was made.
Right.
But he did not let that affect them. Coach Preview used to tell us all the time, when you're playing a game, when you're out there and something goes bad, you got to wash yourself of it and remember that the next play is the most important play.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And Trey has kind of adopted that, and he knows that, and you could see that in his play. He didn't get down because when things start going bad or when something happens, I mean, you automatically start dropping your head a little bit.
Yeah.
And, I remember times when you sitting there thinking, oh, doggone, man, I just messed up, man.
Right.
I knew I was supposed to be here.
Right.
But, you can't allow you in your mind, because the team is driving. I
mean, no time to dwell on the past.
No time to dwell on it. So you got to wash yourself of it. And Trey has learned how to do that. I thought that Tariq Carpenter played an excellent game, had a great game. Still need to see a little bit more from Wanye.
Yes. Yep.
You know, and
But he showed up,
he
though.
showed up though. He showed up
Because
He
that
showed
was
up.
something else we talked about.
We talked about it. Yeah.
You know, and his name was mentioned a couple of times,
Right,
and he
right.
did show up to come out there to provide some either run support or some passes, break up a couple of passes.
Yeah, break up a couple passes and stuff like that.
I mean, watching Trey come out of that transition, he got caught in his back pedal on
Right.
a fade.
Mm-hmm.
But then he was able to transition out of that and get his arm across the receiver to break up that pass.
Right.
I thought that was phenomenal athleticism.
Yeah, and that's what you kind of taught when you get beat like that. Oh, and we always say the ball is not coming to me. So he's not the quarterback is not intentionally throwing the ball to me. So
Right.
he's trying to get it to his receiver. So
Yeah.
when I see the receiver's hands go up,
Right.
you know I got to dig that pocket and try to get it out of there at that moment. And Trey he's kind of mastered that and did a real good job. And just the whole secondary did a great job Saturday.
Yeah.
Of being disruptive when they had a chance to bring pressure
Right.
from the secondary, they did.
Yeah.
You know, Caleb
Oliver.
Caleb Oliver had he had a really good game.
Yes, he did.
Campbell had
Campbell
had a really good
Had
game.
an awesome breakup when the guy actually did beat him. Great pass, but he didn't give up on it, and he knocked it out of the guy's hand so that he couldn't continue with that catch.
Right.
And got the ball on the ground. So these were things too, Ken, that kept registering to me as some awesome coaching technique, awesome coaching that has been going on to teach these guys how to fight all the way through a particular play.
Right.
How you just don't give up on certain, because you see it all the time. Coaching right now with some of the young guys, you know, you just see how there's times in a play where they just in their minds say it's over.
Right.
And they just allow stuff to go where it's really not over.
Right.
And just a little more effort and a little more fight could actually change the course of that play.
Right. And you've got, as a defender, you've got to finish the fight.
Yeah.
And that used to be our mantra. You know, you gotta go to the whistle.
Right.
You know, until you hear that whistle blow, you can't relent.
Yeah.
You got to go.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes, you know, you see guys, and, you know, you can't do it really now, but you used to know the guy that are at the echo of the whistle
Right.
and they laying on you.
Right. Right.
You know, they laying it to you. So you know, that's the way it used to be played. They can't do that too much now because things kind of, you know, the rules change. Rules change. But, you know, especially you guys on offense used to like to see guys laying around the pile, or loafing to the pile, or you know, or standing around
and just trying to look and see it. Wham!
I used to say, man, we used to tell guys, hey, you better get in that pile, man.
Get that pile, brother. I'm telling you, get your head on a swivel.
Yeah,
One.
you get your head on swivel, get in that pile. But, you know, from the secondary standpoint, I thought they did a really good job. And, you know, what I want to see from them from this point on is when you've got opportunities to make plays, be able to make them. I noticed a little bit, you know, on both corner sides, sometimes they don't move their feet well enough to get, you know what I'm saying, to get
in position
where they need to be. And, you know, I was looking at, I think it's Askew that's on the other side. Yeah. I looked at him, you know, and I'm like, you got to move your feet. If you're going to be in press coverage, you got to move your feet, and you got to have good hands. You got to move your feet. You got to move your feet. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what's going to help Tyreek, I believe, too, because, you know, Tyreek has a way to get up in there for run support.
Right.
But he doesn't always finish.
Right.
And something I was thinking about a lot with Curly and with Willie Clay, and a lot of the run support that they gave. Yeah. And, you know, and you saw it really well come alive in the Nebraska game and everything else. Yeah. But when they came in, man, they came in at the knees or below.
Yeah.
And that cat was going to go down one way or another, right? And something that's happening with Tariq is that he gets there, but then he's trying to finish high.
Right.
If he would just decide to finish low, there was a couple of big run plays he could have stopped. Right there at that line of scrimmage and shut it down right there, you know. Right. And I can just see those big plays. You can see it all over the highlights of the 1990. Y'all had that happening all year long. Cats' feet and ankles up in the air all the time. Y'all just pew and getting that. But if these guys can understand that, and unfortunately it's happening across the board all over the place, high school, college, and everything, people finishing high instead of finishing low.
Or reaching and grabbing instead
And
of
reaching and grabbing
you know.
and that kind of stuff.
And I think that lends itself to, people get kind of confused about head placement because we were always taught, and it was never called, but we were always taught head across the bow,
Right.
get in there, and throw your head in there,
Right.
and get it across the guy, and he can't go anywhere.
go anywhere.
Bring your arms, lock, wrap, and all that stuff, take him to the ground. Nowadays, if you lead with your head, you might get a penalty.
You might get a penalty.
So
I hate that rule now. I really hate that rule now, Ken. I think it's really compromising the aggressiveness of the game. It's hurting people's ability to read and react. And these guys are showing up on time, but then they hesitate
because you have to think.
Because now you got to think, how am I going to hit this guy? and football can't be played that way.
It can't be played that way at all.
And I think one of the things they really need to come out of is looking at the contact of targeting as, was it the intent to harm or just to tackle?
Right.
And I really believe, to me, that you can decipher stuff like that.
Sometimes it's a fine line, though. It's a very, very fine line.
But don't kick him out, penalize him, give him a second chance. Maybe if he does it again.
That's the thing that I think they should go to. After the second one, that maybe they should be ejected out of the ball game or whatever, much like they do in the pros with all that good stuff. But my thing is. It's just hard for a guy to come in full speed and a guy is dropping down or a guy is bearing down on him to make that quick decision of what you're going to do. I'm trying to run through you. Whether I'm throwing my shoulder into you or getting my head across you. I'm trying to run through you. So, getting back to Tariq, I think that's something that that's probably processing in his mind.
Exactly.
Because nobody wants to be at the start of a ball game and have a senseless foul like that. And next thing you know, you're sitting down for the rest of the day or rest of the afternoon, and you can't even be out on the field. You got to sit in the locker room.
In the locker room,
and kind of wait on everybody else.
You work too hard. That's what I'm saying about several rules out there, kid. People work too hard for just 11 and 12 games a year to have little small mistakes cost them and be very costly.
Right.
In this situation, you say, okay, he can't play a half. They can't get that back in their lives. You see what I'm saying? You just don't get. Now, if you say, for instance, like you're in the pros, nothing's guaranteed, of course.
Right.
But at the same time, as long as you're healthy and people believe that you can compete on that level, you can play.
Right.
So some people play 14 years. Okay. But the thing is that you don't have that option in college.
Nope.
And to just say to somebody, nope, you're out for the rest of the half. You're out for not only this half, but the next half, next game. They had an episode where kids were just on the field dancing and facing off with one another. And they threw some kids out because I didn't know unsportsmanlike penalties follow you from game to game. And I got to get some clarification on this. But the two teams, you know how they like to face off?
I saw that.
Well,
I saw that.
Because they threw the unsportsmanlike penalty on the team, those that had previous unsportsmanlike penalties were ejected from the game and never got even a chance to play the game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So to me, I mean, you take that kind of stuff lightly. Oh, he just can't play. But I mean, these are some precious 4 years of eligibility that you just cannot get back. And even like we were talking about with the with the transfer rules, what's going on? I mean, you say, oh, you're not going to be able to play this year. You got to come back next year. I mean, that's a lot to take out of a kid. And you take only those precious 4 and change it to 3.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. And, that's got to be, I think they have to, I understand safety. I understand all that good stuff, but there are certain things that they have to kind of revisit during the off season and kind of make some amendment somewhere. And that's the thing I think they need to do, that when you see a rule, you see that, and you see all the different things that can become of it. You have to go in and tweak it a little bit and say, okay, we're going to do this or we're going to do that. Because like you said, you only get so much time to play this game.
Only so much.
And and I used to tell people all the time. Sometimes, it's high school.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and that's as far as you go.
That's it.
And sometimes it's some college,
Right.
And that's as far as you go. And
right.
and then the 1 or 2% of guys
Mm-hmm.
that are blessed to go into the pros,
Right.
The thimble keeps getting smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you got that.
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
you got that
As
right.
far as being able to make a team, being able to make a roster, or doing anything like that, you're just very blessed if you even get an opportunity.
And your body just doesn't last that long.
It doesn't last long. God
So
did
you
not.
got that clock
Well,
against you.
number one, God did not intend for us to be running and having train wrecks like or car wrecks like this.
These are actual real live collisions, right?
Yeah,
These are some real live
collisions. And
So speaking of that, let's move from the secondary to the linebacker play.
Okay.
What did you think about that?
I thought the linebacker played a lot, played pretty aggressively. They were good at affecting some different things when they got into into run blitzes and getting into the hole. I thought David Kerr was nice. Of course, my boy.
Ooh, I couldn't wait to talk about my boy CT3, baby.
Charlie Thomas, I tell you, he is a guy, and you would think that Charlie grew up playing inside linebacker.
Man.
That
kid grew up playing football.
He playing football, man. He has
as they say, that dog will hunt.
Yeah, he has a very unique ability to make himself small, get in holes. He can turns. I don't know how he does it. He shimmies through sideways. He's always around the ball, always making plays. He's a guy, and I used to say, well, if he gains about 10 or 15 pounds, he's probably going to be the next All-American. I think he's the next All-American over at Georgia Tech, like right now, just for the simple fact that this guy is, he's always around the ball, always understands leverage.
He is slippery when wet.
Yeah.
And dry.
Yeah, and he understands. Charlie just really understands the game of football.
Yes.
I see him make plays Saturday where you sometimes when you're playing linebacker or playing up close or in that moment coming downhill, you kind of have to know where your help is coming from.
Right.
And Charlie always understands that.
Yes, he does.
And he knows. I watched him scrape over the top a few times, and it's like he's not running around blocks,
right?
Because they teach you don't run around the block, because when you run around the block, you create a hole.
You create a hole.
So and
Calvin Tiggle had a special uniqueness about that. Okay,
right.
Now Big Dog too, Jarrell, he did the same thing, but he was more of a plug. You know what I'm saying? I mean, more of like a manhole out there. You know, but Calvin was the same thing, to where it was so doggone hard to get a full piece of him.
Right.
And so when you came down on a trap block, you would whiff, or you would just pick up a shoulder, or, you would come underneath and you thought he was coming down and you go back, It was those little characteristics that makes a good linebacker.
Right.
That you see in there. Because I want to also give a shout out to Curry, because we talked about that last week. And he did a whole lot better job this week of stop running into blocks.
Right.
And to get into the hole and make some plays.
Make plays. And that's what you got to have. You got to have linebacker. Everybody on defense, from the line to the linebackers to the defensive ends and all that stuff, everybody has an assignment to do.
Right.
And especially when you're running the ball, we call them run fits.
Right.
And everybody has a place where they're supposed to fit. And guess what? If you're not in the place where you're supposed to fit, you get a 90-yard touchdown like we did in the week one.
Right.
But this week, we gave up some sizable runs, but for the most part, they did a good job in their run fits and getting into the proper gap and playing and keeping the integrity of the defense strong, and even on the pursuit angles.
Yes.
They took nice angles and were able to get guys down or out of bounds. And the long run, was stopped and it didn't turn into a touchdown.
Right. Right. And I mean, and that's very important. I saw a little bit of that Louisville Clemson game, and and Etienne had got loose in the secondary. But some of them Louisville cats, though, tracked them down, and I was very surprised at that, okay? Because if you don't actually have the speed to track somebody down, you just have to be able to perfect the angles.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and sometimes if a guy is fast enough, or too
he
fast,
can break them ankles. He can break them ankles and those angles.
The angles that don't matter. So it's amazing sometimes when you watch these guys take off, and you can tell when nobody can go get him.
Right.
You can always tell
Yeah.
when nobody can go get him.
Oh, absolutely.
But then you have those ones that sometimes if you're on the other side of the field and you're taught run to the pylon, and you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
To a guy, he might slow down, he might think he's got it, and then you can catch him right on the 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes.
And you see it a lot with these guys today too. They actually have the angle. They just continue to run straight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They're not doing the math.
Right.
Basically. You see what I'm saying? He's like, brother, you only got 15 more yards. So just keep going straight. You're gonna make it. But you think you got to cut back, and then all of a sudden he gets tackled on the 8-yard line.
Yeah, it was so funny. You talk about that guys running straight and taking pursuit angles. I remember coaching in my little league team.
Yeah.
And you're trying to, and my coaching style was kind of different because I had been to some places or whatever.
Yeah.
So I had them out there doing pursuit drills and stuff like that. I had them doing the pursuit drills, trying to teach them. And you'd go through all that stuff in the game or in practice. You teach pursuit drills. You tell everybody how to get there. And I'll be jumping around in the game. Next thing you know, everybody running in a straight line.
Got a conga line.
Yeah. But you're still talking about 8 or 9-year-old kids, that not understanding stuff. But
Right.
But those pursuit angles, and we used to do that at the beginning of every practice
Right.
with Coach O'Leary. That
Gotcha.
was something that we did every day.
Every day.
Them pursuit angles, man, and he would if you didn't hustle or you didn't get to the ball, he would. Oh man, he was on you, man.
ripping you. I mean, but those are the fundamentals, right?
Right.
That you should have been teaching them at that level.
Right.
Even if they don't get it wrong, they hear it.
They hear it.
And
right.
every level that they go up, if they're getting those same fundamentals, they'll get better
Right,
and better
right.
and better at it. Well, looking at that awesome linebacker play, and like you said, that big old hit where Charlie even knocked himself out.
Right.
That was just something that, for me, it's that mental. Where are we in our mentality? And the mentality to me on defense is that we are becoming more and more relentless and aggressive.
Right.
And so to move down to the defensive end, we actually got some upfield pressure.
Right.
And got the quarterback to start moving off of his spot, which we talked about before.
Right.
And in doing so, their quarterback, because he's a talent, was able to make some great plays on doing it. But for the most part, it put him in a bad position or a bad angle,
Right.
where we were able to break up the play and cause basically them to not convert a third down or not just to move the chains.
Yeah.
And so I was very impressed with the front line because we've got some injuries and things going on down there too. But these guys, not only, they weren't necessarily getting the sack, but they were getting upfield with the pressure, and then they were keeping, to me, I don't know every single play and what they graded out, but they were keeping their lanes and their responsibilities to allow very little area for the quarterback to pretty much maneuver and get out of there. But it kept him from looking downfield and trying to look down on the field to
Right.
figure out where he was going to move.
And that's what you want when you're up front. You want that pressure. You want them to have that lane discipline,
Right.
And keeping that integrity, so that when that guy steps in the pocket, if you're getting pressure from the outside and he has to step up, guess what? He's stepping up into a crowd,
Right.
So that happened, and we saw that in that first quarter when we got the strip sack and the recovery by Mr. Griffin.
There you go.
You
Shout out. Congratulations.
You would think the brother would be the first one to score a touchdown. The running back, Jemias. But the brother, the defensive lineman is the one that falls on it and gets a score. So we want to shout him out a little bit. But it was just that. When that happened, I said, "Oh, it's going to be a great day."
Yeah.
Anytime you score on defense,
Yeah.
you're thinking, "Okay, here we go." This could be okay, And you had that disruptive play early in the ball game, and that kind of set the tone for the day.
Exactly.
Not only did it set the tone for the day, but it kind of solidified Georgia. It made them Miami have to look around now.
Yeah.
Now because they got pressure. That guy Demetrius Knight came wide open off the left end.
Yes, he did.
So they had to figure out, because it looked like we bluffed a little bit on the right and came from the left. And that was something that I think they did well. They disguised blitzes a lot better than I've seen them do in the past.
And when he came off that edge and hit old boy, right back there, he didn't hit him like a quarterback.
No, he hit him like
he hit him like he knew something about playing some defense. You hear me?
Yeah.
Well, you guys are sitting here listening to A Player's Perspective every Wednesday night at 7:30. We appreciate y'all doing it right here on Facebook, Instagram, and Spreaker. And we are live and direct with you all tonight. So we ask you all to call up everybody that you know that loves Georgia Tech sports and let them know that we are here. Ken Swillen, Tom Covington, Kim Jackson behind the board, right here with you guys live and ready to talk about this awesome win, 28-21, Yellow Jackets over the Miami Hurricanes, making it 2 years in a row that we have beaten these guys. So, Ken, we are breaking down pretty much by position what we saw in that game and just how we're looking at these guys' progression from week to week. I put a little paragraph out there on Facebook and then the copy the clip to the game to talk about that, because every week everybody's talking about, are we getting better? What are we doing? What's happening? And it's so hard to see it when you lose.
Yes.
Okay. It's so hard to see it when you lose. And I thought it was the right time to really show it, because now it's a win.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier. You know how it is. When you miss something live and you watch it on the recording, if your team won, you can watch it all the way through.
Yeah, but when
your team loses, you may not even watch that recording.
Yeah.
You
might do what I do every year when they play the Falcons in the Super Bowl. I watch all the way until right when Matt is about to get sacked.
Yeah.
Right when it's 28-3 and he's about to get sacked. I turn the TV. I turn the TV off. When as soon as Devontae missed the block, I turn the TV off.
Wow.
And I don't watch anymore after that. So in my mind,
we won.
We won. We won.
We didn't end on a good note by missing the block, but we won.
We won.
28-3.
Yeah, man. But right.
There's some shirts out there that'll agree with you.
I know. Somewhere they're wearing them in Pakistan or something.
And somewhere downtown Atlanta too.
Yeah, but
oh my gosh.
we're talking about that. Yeah. Let's go to the offensive side now.
Okay.
Let's go to the offensive side. I had to talk about the defense.
Mm-hmm.
What did you feel about? I guess we can start at the quarterback position.
Well, the one thing that you saw was now we have another quarterback that started and finished the game.
Yeah.
So it gave him some serious reps that he can grow on. And you saw him growing throughout the game. The way that he was reading the field, going through his progression, identifying the receivers, and then making some plays, keeping his head upfield, never dropping his head when he had to run and scramble, but also making some better decisions on how he scrambled.
Right.
The way he ran the ball, the way he was getting out of bounds, maybe, and still finding the sticks and getting beyond the first down measure. The reads that he has to do on the RPOs, okay, and almost broke a big one, okay, up there. So now he's going to learn from now that, hey, I know I'm a quarterback, but I still got to pick my feet up. Mm-hmm. And so if I pick my feet up right here, then I'm going to not get tackled with this one hand that outreach, and I might score on this play because it was so wide open end up there. But he got his receivers involved. His ball is so pretty, and the velocity that he has on the ball too, Ken. It's not something that his receivers can't handle,
right?
Because you saw Donicus Sanders get in there and catch a beautiful slant, okay, where he really had to lead him upfield.
Right.
And he caught it with his hands and doing that. And even and Coach okay, I'm so sorry, Dixon. I'm so sorry, Coach Dixon. But Coach Dixon even talked about, even on another play, the ability of a receiver to use those type of skills, which so many of you guys, if you're listening out there, we receivers, catching that ball with your hands extended gives you so much more of an advantage over that defender and an opportunity to catch the ball. He's doing that. And then on several plays, he even got a chance to get Sanders the ball where he was able to start making some moves, on a quick screen and get up. So you're starting to see a lot of guys utilize their talents. The pretty ball where now, if it was any other game than what this was, where people were actually sitting there in disbelief about what we were doing against Miami.
Right.
If we came in evenly matched and it was a bigger game, that play would have been on the highlights.
Yeah.
But for him to scramble in the back there, step up into the pocket, and still throw that ball on a dime to Amarian Brown, and for him to make the catch he made, going, first of all, the kid was running like this, looking over his right shoulder.
Right.
He turned around and caught the ball
on the outside shoulder.
Right. And then turned back.
Right.
And laid across the pylon.
Right. Right.
The most prettiest play of the week.
Right.
So it's like, what are people thinking about, or what are they looking at? But that situation, then if you go back to what I was trying to say, you look at how he stepped up in that pocket, pressure on him, and still launched the ball and got it down there. So the poise factor is real with him.
Right.
You can't help, because of his size, his stature, the things that he's going through, what's happening, what's going on. You just keep getting these flashes of Joe Ham. You just keep getting these flashes of Joe Ham all the time. But these are situations, because I even think Joe Ham had a pass like that against Notre Dame when we played Notre Dame back then. But basically you're seeing that, and he's getting more and more comfortable. Now, here's the other thing that I'm saying. He got the ball, and he was able to pass the ball downfield. So what did that mean? He started getting some protection up front.
Right.
And these guys up front, man, are battling. Now, we didn't play, this wasn't the Citadel. This wasn't Duke. This wasn't, the University of South Florida. This was Miami.
Right.
Who basically poses as having one of the best front sevens out there. And these guys held their own.
Right, right.
Now, they didn't dominate. Okay, and there was even something this morning on Packer and Durham, show that talked about offensive line protection, and I wanted everybody to see that. I even have a clip, and I'll put it on our page. But they're talking about, as a whole, there's a problem with offensive line protection all across the country.
Yeah.
And that the top teams that are having some issues in the ACC are not alone, okay? But what you didn't see up there was Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
They were not in the top of sacks.
Wow. Okay.
So there's some improvement that's going on. I think they said it was 256 sacks that have happened this year as of right now. And so therefore quarterbacks are getting a lot of pressure.
Just in our conference
Just
alone.
in our conference alone. And so, but you didn't see Georgia Tech leading that statistic, nor were they even in the top 7, I think it was. So you're starting to see some things gel. And then you've got that whole camaraderie happening up front because, of course, what's happening now, too, these guys are able to stay healthy.
Right.
And get to form some continuity.
Right.
Excuse me. So now, transitioning to the offensive line, you see them also providing an opportunity of being able to transition between pass protection and run blocking, because you had another great day for Mason.
Right.
Okay, running the ball. Howard had a good time back there. Jemias got in there a couple of times. So even though we weren't flawless, but we were showing some promise of moving or establishing that offensive line to where we weren't always getting blown back.
Right.
And they blowing up the play.
Right. And this was against a team in Miami that number 7 in the country.
Yeah.
As far as run defense.
Yeah.
So, they're really stout up front, and I thought Georgia Tech did a excellent job of getting Jordan Mason the ball, getting into the right fit, getting into the right call, doing everything that they needed to do to get him going. And once he got going, I think we talked a little bit at halftime, and you said I want to see him, finish runs a little bit.
Yep.
And I think in that he must have heard you, because in that second half he started finishing runs, started making people pay a little bit more and all that good stuff. And I tell you what, that makes the whole offense that much more effective when you can run the ball.
Absolutely.
So that was.
I don't know an offensive line out there that doesn't like lining up there and just blowing people off the ball and seeing a running back run down the field.
Right.
And seeing that pressure being taken off. And then, of course, from a quarterback's perspective, they love it.
Right, because it opens the game up at that point.
It opens the game up.
Right.
You as a defense, you're not playing on the tips of your toes anymore. You're not just ready and thirsty to come.
Yeah.
You're kind of a little flat-footed now.
I always tell people this one statement. There's nothing worse being a defender and a team is running the ball at you.
Yeah.
And they're running the ball at you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it.
And it's like, but as from that read and react perspective, you're trying to come off and beat a guy to a spot.
Yes.
And when somebody's running and then play actioning and then dropping back and all this stuff, you can't do that. You have to take a split second to read and recognize something that, and so like I said, if you look at that graphic, if you're not on your toes, then you're flat-footed. And then once you're on your heels, it's all over. You're done as a defensive player. Yeah. Once you're playing on your heels. But if you can get a defense and a flat-footed situation, then you've got them.
Yeah.
Because you now have earned yourself a split second.
Yeah.
Okay, to do something, to make a better read downfield, to hit a hole, to position yourself on a block,
right? To
do things that you need to do to execute your offense,
right? And
collectively as an offense, I thought that they came together very well.
Yeah, very well. Kudos to Coach Key.
Kudos to Coach Key.
Because I tell you, they showed him on the sideline, sweating profusely, in such a way that I have never seen a coach sweat. You know,
it was awfully hot.
It had to be really, really hot down there. But it was just one of those things where he was down there, getting it in and working hard, and you can tell these guys have really bought into it, because you got some walk-ons playing. Yes. You got some guys that really wasn't expecting to be on the field, on the field. So it's just been, but as we go back to say this, from week to week, we've seen them get better and better and better, and hopefully by the time we get to the end of the season, they'll be playing the best ball they played all year. And
if they take the approach, Ken, to just get better at what you and your position as yourself can do, then collectively they'll get better. And it happens even faster,
right?
When people think like that.
When people think like that, and when you have wins like they had this past weekend to kind of validate what they're being taught, what they're being coached, and all that good stuff.
I get so mad. I get so mad when I watch other games and balls are deflected and they bounce up and then they just fall right into guys' hands. And then when we get it and they bounce up, they bounce away and ain't nobody where nobody is. Everybody over here, but the ball goes over there. But you create opportunities by continuing to do what they're doing.
Right.
By continually pursuing to the ball. You got 3 guys around the ball next time. Well, if you're that 4th guy and on that tape, it showed that you loafed a little bit.
Right.
And now you see that everybody else is not loafing. I'm going to give a little extra effort. Right. That 4th guy may show up in that area where that ball fell down.
Right.
And we may start getting some opportunities.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So as we're talking about the offense, let's go now to, we talked about the running backs. We talked about the line. We talked about the quarterback. Let's talk about your position group. The tight ends and receivers. We'll do all of them together.
Okay.
So that way we can, because we only got about 10 minutes left to go on the show. So.
Right. Okay. So time is moving fast.
Yeah, moving kind of fast. Yeah.
That's just because we old.
That's because we won.
Tell it, brother.
We got a lot to talk about.
Because I think it was a couple weeks ago we were here like What we gonna talk about? Kim, what you got, Kim? But you're right though. But I was better. We talked about that too.
Mm-hmm.
It was better play from the tight ends.
Right.
It was better play with that. Delaney got a chance to get involved in catching the ball, securing the ball, and helping us to move the ball downfield. Pass protection, they helped out with that, and they were able to do some things there. They got to get a little bit better in there, and it's very hard. I know as a tight end, it's very hard on that end. You know, it's almost like you feel like you're on an island sometimes.
Yeah.
And you're basically going against one of the most athletic guys out there that's coming off of the edge. But at the same time, you got to be able to stop and impede that progress of them getting in there and coming in there, but getting upfield, get involved in the passing game, and catching the ball when the ball comes to you. And I think that they did a good job at that. I think they did a great job at that. They got still a lot of work to do. In making that happen. But I was very happy with the tight end play.
Right.
Wide receiver play, I was really ecstatic. I thought just this watching us execute with speed, getting down there, getting open, staying in tune. That pass to the sideline that was actually it looked like it was going to Tobias Oliver, but actually Adonicus didn't give up on the route.
Right.
And then he had the presence to understand that sideline. That's the reason why you do that sideline drill.
Right.
Because once you really get good at it, Ken, I was showing some kids the other day too. It gets so ingrained in you that you actually have almost a stop sign in your mind.
Right.
That you don't have to look down. You can just run to the sideline, stop, catch that ball out there, and you look down and your feet are still in bounds. Because that repetition of doing that helps you do it, that memory of knowing where to put your feet and how to make that happen.
Right.
And then, of course, you know, he can also trust himself to do more of a lean with his feet down instead of having to feel like he had to run through, because at the same time, he got his foot in there, but he could have made it that catch too with maybe 2 feet.
I'll tell you who used to do that so well for us was Bobby Rodriguez. Rodriguez, he would lay out feet inbounds and stretch his 5'11" body out all the way out.
All the way out. People on the sideline had to get out the way. Absolutely. And people don't understand that that's all playable field.
Right.
As long as your feet's inbound, you can do that.
Right.
And so and that's just awareness, man. That's just understanding football in your position. And these guys are getting out there, they're doing that better. They're continuing to block well on the edges. And they're stretching the field now, Ken.
Yeah.
They're stretching this field, and they're getting behind people and everything else. And you're seeing right away that Donica Sanders and Amari Brown are some really big time speedsters. Yeah. And Malachi has that deceptive speed.
Deceptive speed, long strider that can really go on top of people, and next thing you know, they're gone.
Yeah.
We talked about the play that Amari made in the end zone. That was just the way he contorted his body was just a great play.
Unbelievable.
You know, and you looked at that, and then when I look at the development of Tobias Oliver in the slot, I tell you, he's going to be an effective guy.
Tobias, I know you listening, Tobias, because you know you one of my favorites. So I know you listening, but you are going to be so special at wide receiver and what you do as long as you continue to embrace it. Because what's happening right now is that you're thinking through your process of where you need to be, how you need to line up, your depth, and everything else. And then all of a sudden, when that becomes natural, all of a sudden you're gonna see that ball come.
Yeah.
You had that nice little 5-yard out to him, and he made a nice move to get upfield and get up inside, because that's when his natural innate ability comes out, right? Where he just becomes a football player then once he gets the ball in his hands. Well, once he starts to understand that more and more, Ken, there's going to be people out there that are going to say we got to get it in his hands.
Right.
And one of those people are going to be James Graham.
Right.
And they're going to make that happen.
Right.
And then what James is doing, though, is that he's not getting into a bad habit or into a rhythm of only looking one way.
One way, right.
Okay, and getting stuck with that. You see a lot of kids do that. They just look one way, they get in that, and that's it.
Exactly.
But he's he's getting the pre-snap read. He's looking and checking and making his reads go in progression all the way through that. And that's what's going to make him dangerous down the line. And then, of course, all of these weapons are going to surface. And then as these guys get better up front, they're going to provide that little extra second that we need to allow James to make that play.
Right before we go, we got to give a shout out to the special teams.
Oh,
They did yeoman's work. Really got to give a shout out to our overweight punter.
Nate had an interview this morning, and I'll put that on our page too with Packer and Durham, right? Mm-hmm. And he talked about how he said Presley Harvin can run.
I believe it.
He said he can move.
I believe it. I believe it.
So he's a big boy, but
he's a big guy, man.
And when he said he can run, then you know who I thought about? Scotty Beavers.
Scotty Beavers.
Little beef cat. He's built like beef cat. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And but he had an excellent game too. Punting the ball
was
and
great.
And then of course throwing the ball, and of course that made the highlights.
Yeah,
and everybody was talking about how he just put that sucker on.
It was on a rope and a dime, and when I heard it, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech really came to play today.
Really came to play.
And they're emptying out the kitchen sink, trying to find out how we can find a win down in South Florida.
And Nate and shout out to Nate because Nate has had many touches this year.
I think that was only his second touch this year.
And then on a trick play like that and getting out there and do that, he made the catch. And kept his balance and stayed in bounds.
Right.
And
got in the end zone. And kudos to him for that. And that was just a great job.
Yeah.
A great scouting by the coaching staff to know when they got a certain look, what was going to happen.
Right.
And, I don't understand.
But not being afraid to pull the trigger.
And they got in they got in the right position because the play right before that, I think they were like a third and 11, a third and 15 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they got like 10 yards.
Third and 17.
It was like third and 17. Mm-hmm. So they got like 10 or 11 yards.
Yep.
And that put them, across, right at almost at the 40-yard line, which kind of made it,
side,
it kind of, which made it be like, well, we can go for it,
right,
or we can use this trick play.
Right.
And that was the perfect time, perfect execution of it. And it was just kudos to Coach Collins and for having the guts to call it.
Absolutely.
Because stuff like that comes from him. So kudos to him for having that, having the wherewithal to do that in that moment. And I don't know, I've never seen anybody not run with the gunner. I mean, I don't understand.
I was really surprised with that.
I'm like, okay, y'all just turn the gunner loose. I mean,
now, of course, on the flip side, you can just say, well, if he didn't make that mistake, then it probably would have been a different result. Yeah, I can understand that. But there's always at least one player every down,
right,
that has a mental lapse,
right,
and right then to have the presence, one, because he had to go around him. And I don't know if he thought maybe just because he had to go around him, he went out of bounds, that he didn't have to worry about him. But in a punt situation, I just still understand why he wasn't running.
Why he wasn't running with him, right? Exactly.
But for some reason, though, that everything aligned and we were set up and we were able to go ahead and punch it on in. And that was big time.
There you go.
That was big. And then we left points on the field.
Left a lot of points on the field.
So it's not like we didn't mess up either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there was opportunities where we could have won that thing in regulation.
Right.
But we didn't, and so we had to take it on into overtime. And when we had to make a play, we did.
Yeah. When's the last time
Jerry Howard?
When's the last time you seen three missed field goals inside of 30 yards?
Was it us against Virginia Tech?
Virginia Tech, maybe that's what it was. But we had like 3 blocks.
Something was it blocks or something? But I know they were misses. They didn't go through the hump, right?
We had like 3 blocks, and that's immediately what I thought about. I was like, "Oh my God, this is like Virginia Tech." I think we won the game like 6-3 or something crazy like that. But Keith Holmes I think he had a couple of blocks, and then Tommy Johnson had a block.
There you go.
So it's just one of those things. Just weird stuff has to happen in order for you to win a ball game sometimes.
And then, of course, we went with a new kicker with the Falcons, and then we had to get rid of him because he couldn't get it through the uprights.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, so it's it's not a good year for kickers. UGA can talk about that right now, and they're All-American kicker over there, right? So for some reason, there's something in the air this year that's causing that. We just don't need to participate.
Yeah.
We need to get in line with everybody else that's putting that ball through the uprights.
There you go.
And because we're going to need that coming down the stretch. And, close games can turn into large large differential games because of the special teams.
Special teams.
Because you're able
They are important.
They are important. So, that little 40-yard, 50-yard field goal, you remember, I think was it this week or was it last week? No, might have been last week. The weeks are just coming together. But we made a 52-yard field goal.
Right.
And then we had to basically, it was taken away from us because our guy moved.
That was this week.
That was this week. Yeah. So in that situation right there.
Or was it Duke? I can't remember.
See what I'm saying? So it's like, but in that scenario right there, I think it was Duke. Because if you look at that type of scenario of us doing that and putting that ball through there and getting the 3 points, the outlook of that game could have been so different.
It could be different because what happens is if you get the 3, if you don't get the 3, now they go down and they get 3 or they get 7. Now it's a 10. It's a 10-point swing. So now you put yourself behind the 8 ball and you've taken a scoring opportunity away from yourself. Basically.
Exactly. And there's something that's always taken out of a defense when you put points on the board.
Yeah.
And I mean, the first kick is just 3. But if you allow somebody to do it 4 times, then all of a sudden you're not down 3 anymore, you're down 12.
Right.
So it's like, okay, those points do add up.
They add up. Even though you don't want to be in the red zone too many times and not get that 7.
And not get that 7. Yeah. And of course you got to get the ball in the end zone. But yeah, I'm happy for the boys. I think they did a great job. I think if they can take this and continue to build on it,
right,
which is supposedly our culture right now, and building on that, building on effort. And so our effort was excellent. And moving into this week, if we can continue to, be healthy, continue to gel, and continue to stay aggressive in everything that we do, it's going to make us very competitive in these games.
Right.
And then all we got to get is right now some opportunities to make plays.
Yeah.
And so when the ball's out there and the ball touches our fingers, we got to pull it in. You got to go out there and do some things that are going to be outside of the norm. And I tell my guys this all the time. A lot of people can't do it.
Yeah.
But you can. And you've got to have that mentality. You got to have that mentality that, a lot of people can say that type of catch cannot be made by a lot of people. But when it comes to me, I'm going to make that catch.
Right.
I'm going to make that block. I'm going to make that tackle. So if it is to be, is up to me. That's a book that's out there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the mentality that Tech has to take from now on going forward in order to go out there and play to where their true potential is.
Right.
And of course, the more comfortable you become with the system, with the players around you and that kind of thing, it just helps you to maintain that and actually achieve that type of play.
Yeah, we talked about, I know we got to go, but maximizing the opportunity, maximizing the everything that they have from the effort standpoint, from making catches, from whatever it is.
Yeah.
But just maximize this moment.
Yeah.
And get the most out of it. And I think if they continue to do that, they'll be just.
It look like fine. A lot of people will watch a little bit more film this week too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So you got an off week, so hopefully they're taking advantage of
it. And
they're getting a whole lot in there, and they're coming out with them bloodshot eyes and all that kind of stuff.
There you go.
But it was kind of cool too to hear. They asked Nate a question today on the show about they always ask the different kids that they interview on the show about their hardest class that they've taken.
Yeah.
And he said finite math.
Wow. Okay.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And I can kind of go back to those days and think about those days because, that finite math was a little bit edgy.
Yeah.
It was a little bit edgy.
Yeah.
And it was
that and statics and statistics.
And matrices. Oh, Lord have mercy. All right. Well, thank y'all for joining us today. We're going to end on that note. before we actually get Dane Bramage, I should say, Dane Bramage. But appreciate you guys out there for tuning in with us. Stephen Farr, appreciate you watching us. Robert Turner, I appreciate you guys tuning in with us. Colleen Campbell, thank you so much for checking in with us. E. Bill, appreciate you, man. Got to get off that hash. You got that right, brother. Tate Johnson, Tim Kyle, thank you. Homecoming against Pitt would be a good time for a meet and greet for the 1990 team. Well, hey, we're going to be out there, so we'll look forward to seeing you. We would definitely be there. Kenneth Wilson, what's up, fellas? Goose. So we appreciate y'all tuning in with us this week. Continue to do so. If you missed any part of our show, go on and click on it after we log off and post it on the page. Continue to check in with us. Tell everybody about a player's perspective. And it's easy for me to say it should be a player's perspective. But for my man, Kim Jackson behind the board here at our Seven Springs studio, to my man Ken Swillen, to me, T Cub, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Go Jackets. Have a great week.
Peace.
Peace.
Go Jackets.